It is time to engage. Today we are talking about the third to last episode of Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. What's past is prologue. And a lot happened, so we have a lot to talk about. And often we start this by breaking it down into general ideas. But first, let's talk about the things we liked in this episode, because I have a lot of things that landed in the liked department, and I have a lot of things that landed in the don't like department. So, Vanya, what did you like about this episode?
I definitely like the action. I love the action. I thought it was great. I thought the fight scenes were awesome.
The stunt people did solid work in this episode, right?
The fight scenes top notch.
Yeah.
I always love a good backstab.
Yeah.
Nothing.
As reenacted here by Crusher and Picard.
I have a love for Michelle Yeoh, so I was like, yes.
Yeah, it was good to see that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon work coming into play 17 years
so
later.
many high kicks.
Yeah.
Incredible. And and I like to see Saru be aggressive.
Yeah.
I also and I like to see Burnham be crafty, do crafty thing, because she's always best. That's the character's always best when she's she's always best when she's super fast and does things that you're not gonna expect. And I love when the character's like that.
It was pretty sweet when she had rerouted the mainframe and then Landry 2 showed up.
Yeah, so that stuff, it really is when everybody was really confident, I liked it the most.
Cool. Yeah, I would agree that the confidence of this show is nice. When it's insecure and quoting other movies badly, not quite so good. Sonia, what did you enjoy about this episode?
So I'll echo the last two. Definitely loved it when Saru made that speech. Saru, excuse me.
It's said both ways. Saru. Is there a name in this show that's said one way? Michael. That's about the only way.
And Burnham's craftiness. Even when I didn't understand it, actually it was really delightful to finally understand why she did what she did a couple of times. To finally understand her plan and her, the consequences of her actions. Did you just call that something?
When she rewired the
yes.
it was pretty neat to see that happen and then not quite know what was happening and then see what happened.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. I enjoyed also that they focused on the storyline that you mentioned at one point when we were watching it, that they didn't have anything to do with Ash Vok, and I thought that's
or
good.
Or do you mean Vogue?
Vogue. You didn't invoke Ash Vok. I'm glad because we got to focus on one storyline that was more enjoyable.
Yeah, no Kailash today. I must say the things I enjoyed in this episode were the things that made it feel like Star Trek, and those things weren't so much the fights. There was some craftiness that was fun, but the thing I loved was that moment where Stamets was discussing what the thing inside of Charon, which they kept saying Charon. Yeah. The name of Pluto's moon is Charon. It's a confusing name. It's not named after a Greek character. Everyone thinks it is, so that's what makes it confusing. But inside of Charon, where that huge ball of mycelial fusion was happening, when he and Saru were like, "Oh, that's not sustainable," they were like, "Yeah, well, they apparently aren't going for sustainable." I enjoyed this idea that, politics aside, they're managing to discuss the fact that the evil Terran Empire, which falls apart in like 11 years from now, by the way, is not worried about sustainability. And they're just crushing things and conquering things, and that's not sustainable. And then you look at the Federation that is sustainable. And I really enjoyed that not political, but that ideological play very much. On the topic of political things, I was very amused by Lorca's "Make the Empire glorious again." And the weird thing about that is, I don't even know if that could be a political statement. Because the only two people you had to choose from were both monsters in the show. I mean, not in the 2016 election. Yeah. They were both monsters in the Terran Empire. So it's like they're both terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was anything political beyond making fun of an interesting phrase and playing with it in the Star Trek version of it. But there were some really cool things to grab onto in this episode, and I enjoyed those. They felt Star Trek-y, and that was nice.
Good.
Now, what are you going to say?
No, I do think, though, you could argue that Georgiou is kind of the lesser of two evils which is weird.
Yeah, she's only a cannibal and a backstabber.
It's what people say in our world all the time.
She tolerates the undesirables
at the edges.
At the edges. There is one more ethical. There was one moment of an ethical dilemma that I really enjoyed. That was very Star Trek. Can I say it? When Burnham goes all Starfleet on Georgiou and takes her with her. Instead of letting Georgiou die the death of the captain or the emperor, the leader.
I'm sorry, there was a character on this show that was raised on Vulcan, and I can't remember which one it was, and you would expect her to do things that are, logical.
But I like that because she's human.
She's doing Starfleet.
She is human.
It's her Starfleet human side.
And, that's the thing.
She's a terrible Vulcan, and that's okay.
No, but
she can't do a Vulcan neck pinch. She can't, that's fine.
That's what the Vulcans think of her.
Yeah.
Maybe the Vulcans think
it's not your human tongue. It is your human heart. Computer?
Well, Gary says it felt Star Wars to him, especially the weapons barrage in the corridor.
Yeah, that you're right, Gary. That felt like it was droidekas versus Naboo troopers just shooting each other in episode 1. It was also truly terrible strategy on everyone's part. So it was it was fun to watch, but it was just people getting vaporized left, right, and center. I'm amazed these people live to the age of 20.
Yeah.
And that's about when most of them die. So our friend Jeremy was dead in this one, and it was they didn't even explain how he died. There was the bio weapon that shows up just early enough for Lorca to, I guess, wipe out a lot of people on the Imperial Palace ship, because we only see one shot of that doing anything, and then we're told that it was decks and decks and decks that have been destroyed. I just feel like watching the Terran Empire rip itself to pieces. Of course, it is not sustainable.
Yeah,
and it was enjoyable to see all of this madness happening now. And the idea that they've seen my neck, I'm a fallen emperor, I can't possibly have this back.
I thought that was really badass.
That was pretty badass.
When I was watching it, I was just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense to me. It so often isn't like that, where the person's just trying to hang on to something. But she knows.
It's over.
She knows, and she's been reigning for I don't know how long, so maybe she feels like, okay, well,
I've had a good run.
Yeah, it's longer than most or something
you would think.
Who knows, right?
Yeah, Emperor Archer was an idea. He didn't even get to declare anything. Poor guy. And I must say, as we sort of shift around to things we didn't like about this episode, let's talk about it first as an hour of television as a part of 15 hours. Let's not even put Star Trek in the mix for this part. Let's talk about what we didn't like about this hour of television, and what we did. Vanya?
I felt like the whole Stamets figuring out, when Lorca decided, he didn't want him around, that was pretty quick and not explained that much.
And opened the moon door?
Yeah.
To let the bad man fly? Yeah. It's I've seen this before.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't in love with that part of it, because I thought it was just Mara Stamets, he's there, he's screwed up now.
Useful to a point.
Gone so quickly. I also wish there was a little bit more Landry. I felt again, she was kind of
the fact that Mirror Landry is exactly the same as our Landry.
Yeah.
Maybe this is paying the price for the fact that Smiley and O'Brien are both delightful. Landry is truly an awful person in both universes.
She's awful, but she's also kind of incompetent, which she's not sharp. She has no you're wanting that competency porn. That's why you like Burnham when she's crafty, you know what I mean? Because you're just
And Rekha Sharma plays such a competent character on Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
And so to see her get to play that sort of Adar character is amusing.
I wish she was like Lorca, where he's a villain and super, he's a super genius. You know what I mean?
Villain with a plan.
Somebody that he actually would want to be that near to him, because she's his right-hand person, but she's not. She's nowhere near as intelligent as he is. I find that kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I was truly disappointed that was not Mirror Landry.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like that was laid right out at the writer's feet.
Yeah.
And Akiva Goldsman is one of the executive producers on these back few episodes of Discovery, and he is the writer of Batman Forever.
Okay.
So, the second worst Batman movie of all time, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to be said for where some of the executive producing instincts might be coming from. I don't know. A friend of mine, Aaron, pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh, interesting point. Yes, could be that.
It would have been so cool if the Landry in Prime Universe was like Mirrorland, like she'd come with Lorca.
Yeah.
And that even if it was a switcheroo, some crazy switch, and
which we got to see.
Like
we got to actually
Landry?
see the footage of the Gagarin like escaping the Charon and then going into an ion storm, and like this was an episode filled with unnecessary exposition of stuff we already knew and stuff we didn't need to see. Yeah. Like the fact that Stamets unraveled the fact that Lorca was able to change things from his chair, and that all those jump points that he asked for were... It's like watching the characters catch up to where you've been for an episode or 5 is not compelling television.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because there's so many missed opportunities. And when they do little tiny twists, like little things, it's so great. Like you were talking about, like when we didn't know what Michael Burnham had done, and then it's discovered like within moments. You know what I mean? That's when they're at their best. When they try to do these long term,
is better, I think, than the arc. Absolutely.
For sure.
Sonia, what did you dislike about this episode?
The script, I think it needed tightening up. I think you're right about that exposition, that unnecessary exposition by Stamets. There was that scene between Burnham and Georgiou when she's in her sanctuary. I thought
at dinner. At their dinner table.
I thought that was out of place. I didn't think that scene should go down that way. That moment between them. I'm glad it happened, but I wish it had been different. Missed opportunity.
Yeah, well, to have them both there with each other's mirror comm badges.
And you're just sitting there. They're just sitting there, and they're...
And how is that not the moment where we find out what truly happened to Mirror Michael Burnham?
Right?
Oh, exactly,
Did Georgiou kill her, and so Georgiou the whole time was like, who is this person who looks like my daughter? Like, what was going on in that scene? Why did we not find out about key, interesting things when we're just rehearing other things?
Well, you were saying, like, we had the flashback, and you're like, there's all this exposition all that time. It's like, that's the perfect time to do a flashback. I would love to see Mirror Burnham. That would be so cool.
It would have been neat to see, like, apparently, Gabriel thought our Burnham was even better than his. Yeah. Which makes sense, because our version of everything is generally better, because they're alive long enough to learn things. Computer?
Sam loved the fight scene, thought it was epic. Also thought that the Mirror Bridge crew getting killed so fast was, he says, LOL, ouch.
It was pretty good. And did you enjoy the fact that the very last member of the Mirror Bridge crew was a person of color? Because that's like the complete inverse, and it's the mirror universe. Well, that worked out nicely. I liked that she was like, they're... I can't tell you that they're behind me and about to vaporize me. It was an exciting moment to watch that one go down. And then the emergency transport that Georgiou has only for herself whenever she needs it, that Lorca apparently didn't know about, even though he was her like right-hand man.
Oh no! Was it that he didn't know about it, or that he thought it had been deactivated?
No, he seemed genuinely surprised.
He didn't even. He asked Stamets, like, I didn't know you didn't know that you could do that. And
she is the emperor.
I think that's realistic.
I keep that to myself.
Everything to herself. Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't have more tricks in her.
Yeah, the most likely person to kill you is probably Gabriel, so it made sense in that way. Computer?
Gary thought the bioweapon was a singularity, but it turns out to be the Mycelium Network hub, and that was a big surprise to him.
Yeah, that bioweapon being in any way related to Stamets' mycelial work was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
I found a lot of things in this episode were a real stretch. The idea that Saru over the span of like one episode goes from, oh no, I wish I was getting these orders from the captain, to I am your captain and I will quote Kirk before he even says these lines, and I will, and just the things.
This is our maiden voyage bit.
Yeah, the maiden voyage bit was quite like heart. It spoke to my heart, and I liked that. But the whole time it was like weak parroting of other great Star Trek.
And it happened too fast.
And the weird thing about this show is things happen too fast and too slow at the same time.
Yes, we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Like, the pacing is incredibly fast, and yet I don't know if I'm, if it's going fast enough to get there.
I agree. And another thing that happened in this episode that I thought was strange was people were immediately calling Commander Saru Captain.
I was really...
That doesn't happen.
That threw me totally.
Yeah, like, you don't get a field commission to captain unless someone who has a higher rank than you calls up and is like, hey, Riker, so I know... tough break. Picard's been captured by the Borg, so let's give you a 4th pip. You're Captain Riker, just for the hour until we get him back.
Right.
Like, you hear about it when it happens.
Sure.
And when Lieutenant LaForge was in charge of the Enterprise during the episode Arsenal, and everyone else was on the planet, no one was like, "Hey, Captain LaForge." No, he's still Lieutenant.
Yeah.
After they all find out that Lorca's Mirror Lorca. I mean, I was like, maybe Tilly's like, she has such a hate on for him. She's like, Captain Sir, I just want to, I want to put it to bed. I'm just going to move on. But, she still wouldn't do that.
Yeah. It was weird. Strange. It was like everyone was trying to support Saru in his, running the ship. Maybe, but calling him Captain, that's like straight up breaking the chain of command. Computer?
I agree.
Melissa wonders if the people writing and directing the show, if you think that they know that these are elements of Star Trek that they're not in line with, or are they making a statement with these departures? Like, what do you think?
If Bryan Fuller was still working in this show, I would say this is a statement.
Yeah.
This is a guy who was there for the later part of classic, golden age of Star Trek, Silver Age of Star Trek, and would know those things. But honestly, the haste with which this season has been made, the haste with which the scripts are being turned over, the amount of money they spent at the beginning of the season and then had to make up for at the end, I would go ahead and say they have no idea. There's 700 hours of this stuff to watch, and to walk into this and all of the cast are still trying to catch up with Star Trek. They're still watching Star Trek, and they're done their season. If Bryan Fuller had his way, they would be done their show, because it was going to be an anthology.
Yeah.
This would be it. And they wouldn't have even seen everything that came before it. Computer?
Well, Gary thinks that the writers are inventors, that they're stretching the limits of what can be done. That's his opinion.
They're certainly inventing something. And if it was a science fiction show called Discovery...
Yes, but also they're just not writing it as well as it could be written. It's not satisfying.
And as well as it has been written.
Has been written. Yeah. It's not satisfying. As well as a lot of shows have been written. Never mind Star Trek. You guys talk about Battlestar Galactica all the time.
Yeah.
Talk about other shows as well. I find that's a big thing that's been a problem. The pacing and the writing.
And the writing in this particular episode caused such a blatant reshoot when Michael says, "I'm going to give you myself." And then, obviously in the edit, they were like, oh, that's way too sexual.
Yeah.
We need another line here somewhere.
Sure.
Because if you go back and watch the episode, the lighting changes, the makeup changes, her skin tone changes, everything changes for that shot where she says, "And I'm giving you my mind." Just to be clear.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of strange.
Because it's a terrible reshoot.
Yeah, I did think that, the language, when she said, "I'm giving you myself," I was okay with that.
Yeah.
And when she went and, does she really think he's gonna,
stop there?
Because you're gonna reason with this guy now?
Yeah.
And he's like,
yeah.
Right? Come on, dude.
I didn't buy it either.
I wanted to say something, too, about how much of this episode was also about the attachment to Michael. And that was also a bit distracting.
How everybody likes Michael?
Obsessed. They almost fetishized her abilities. Now she is very bright because she's obviously got abilities, but it was a bit irritating after a while. It didn't make sense after a while. I think they did too much of it. It was distracting. Yes, obviously Michael is great. That's why you're fighting over her. But that's all that Georgiou and Lorca, that's a lot of what Georgiou and Lorca were saying to her, to everybody else, to each other, was about Michael. Yeah. And I didn't think it needed to be that much. It's obvious that she is the center of the show. Right. I don't think them talking about it that way, again, was maybe hitting us over the head with it.
Yeah.
Again, tightening up of the script.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, because there's other ways to say that people are have devotion to somebody, through writing, rather than to actually say
over and over and over.
Explicitly, they could have used that time to tell us other things, and I think to do other things, and I think
that Lorca, if Lorca, it would have actually made him more obsessive, and his role and his connection to her bigger if it was him. It was mostly him being so explicit about it. So then he would have even sounded crazier, which I would have loved if he sounded even more of a psycho.
I really wish we had more time to meet the real Lorca. Because the fact that, and spoiler alert, he dies in this episode when he gets tossed through the moon door. And we don't care. Right?
Yeah, it's
because it's a character we've barely met. Yeah. It's not the Lorca that we thought it was. He's been a lie. Who did he care about? What did he like? What did he really feel? None of that matters. We haven't really met him.
Right.
And then we see him get tossed and disintegrated, and it's like a shot on his face as he's disintegrating, like we're supposed to care. Mm-hmm. But it's just so hollow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why I wanted it to be like what you're saying. It would have been better to kind of unravel him and his connection to her, at least to make him the human part, regardless of good or bad, right? To see more of that unravel before us, and not be give pieces of her to everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been like even though his response to when she's like, just my mind, is not like big enough.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't have that. Like Star Trek melodrama.
Yeah, the melodrama
you want from the villains.
And the period style, larger than life.
Yeah.
That's what Star Trek tends to be. It's larger than life in the way that any Middle Ages and any period piece, any Shakespearean stuff, there's heightened elevated language going on. And the fact that this feels like the cast of ER has been handed a Star Trek script, but not even a Star Trek story. And then they rewrote it into the language that you would find on ER. Because it feels like all these people are trying to be so 2017 that they don't feel like 2258 at all.
It almost feels like they're being they're being restrained. They're having restraint in some areas, in the wrong areas, and not enough restraint in other areas. Like, they don't have enough restraint with violence. You know what I mean? But they have all this restraint when it comes to just
emoting and acting.
Blowing it out of the water.
Another example of that was the Stamets. So Stamets he's taking them back home, and he's in the network, and it's regenerating, and he says, "I don't know where I'm going," and then he starts to think about Hugh. Right? So it becomes a very sentimental, very emotional, romantic moment. Okay, fine. I don't know if it needed to be that, but it was.
I also didn't see a clearing in the forest in a way that made it seem necessary.
Exactly. So it didn't actually work that well. And then in the end, all he says is, "Thanks, Hugh." Are you kidding me? Your partner. It was the sweetest part of that show has been the two of them together, and it meant a lot to us that they were so affectionate with each other, and they showed love to each other. It couldn't have been. You couldn't have said something nicer than "Thanks, Hugh." Come on.
It is one of the only true emotional experiences of the through line of this show. We're getting something from Saru and Michael that's like a betrayal that's patching over, that turned into recognizing some kind of friendship is coming back, and that's the only other relationship that is genuine, because the Ash Vok thing is clearly built on lies. Everybody who liked Lorca built on lies. There's really no relationship other than Hugh and Paul.
Yeah, because
it's gone.
Even if we got to see the one-sided love affair of Lorca, even if we got to see how one-sided it was, that would have been great. Just make that bigger. I feel.
Yeah. And how you were talking about how they hold back in the wrong places and they go too far in other places. So the last week's episode was called Vaulting Ambition, and it was based on a Macbeth. Okay. Yeah. So they wanted to be Shakespearean. Well, you know what? Shakespeare knew how to go all the way. It's called Titus Andronicus. You want to be violent. You want violence. You want revenge. You want deceit. You want all the bad stuff, all the villains, you do Titus Andronicus.
Yeah.
Or you don't do Titus Andronicus. You do Macbeth. The violence in Macbeth was very specific. It was, and everything. There was a fallout from that. It's one of the best things ever written because that was that moment of violence that ruins everything for everybody.
Yeah, that it makes everything unravel. And you know, Star Trek has done Shakespeare. You know, like Christopher Plummer. Don't mess. Don't
Patrick Stewart.
If you're gonna tackle Star Trek and Shakespeare, fucking do
it. Commit.
Yeah, you really have to commit. And I mean, I really like Discovery. But I mean, that's why I want it to be at top notch, right? Because I really like it, and I want it to be its very best.
Absolutely. Computer?
David says he thinks Gary and he are watching a different show from the group, since they seem to be quite contrarian to some of the
Okay, well,
how much do they like? So they like it a lot?
Let's dig into this as a Star Trek show. Okay. We talked about it as an hour of television and some of the problems it had, but let's talk about this as a show that takes place 10 years before Kirk. What did we think about this episode? The Mirror arc is done. So this is now the first time the Mirror universe happens. How does this fit into canon? How do we feel about these choices, Vanya?
I just don't know how... I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how to deal with Discovery.
How is it a prologue? Because they're kind of talking about Discovery now as a prologue to...
Well, we should know about... if we look at the rest of the Star Trek canon, then we should know about Discovery.
Yeah. Did Kirk just not read that book? How did Kirk not know? Oh yeah, Mirror Universe. The Discovery went there. Yeah. You know, all those people who are just like you, only evil and crazy.
And especially since Mirror Georgiou's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So it's kind of I can say here, but in the Prime Universe, I don't know. I'm just kind of. That is a little. I don't know how they're gonna deal with that. I mean, I understand what Gary and David are saying. About the writers and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to, and we want new Star Trek, we want fresh Star Trek because we've seen all the Star Trek, 700 hours of Star Trek, and we want the franchise to go forward. But since it's hard for it to go forward since it's starting before Kirk.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It can't go past where we've already seen.
And
so
now it's adding things to the canon that I'm not even sure. I don't know how they're gonna manage that.
It's starting to look to me even more like, and especially seeing what happens in the preview for next week's episode, and the fact that they're 9 months into the Klingon War, having defeated Earth, none of this happens. Clearly, there's going to be time travel. And there's going to be undoing of certain things.
Or are they just going to beat the Klingons? No?
Oh, I feel like if Starfleet headquarters was destroyed by Klingons 10 years before the original series,
they wouldn't have been able to
they'd have mentioned it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been like a gentle Cold War.
That's true.
You know, a smoldering issue. Computer?
So David is reminding us that there are still 2 episodes left in this year's storyline, and so give them 2 more hours to answer some of these questions.
You betcha. Absolutely.
Can I say what I think is like Star Trek, more like Star Trek now? Is this thing about Georgiou, her bringing Mirror Georgiou into their world. Now what? First of all, she defied Georgiou's desires.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
She was ready to die.
She was ready to die, and she stopped her from doing that. Stopped her from her acting on her own choice. And now what are they going to do with her? So now it's a real test of Starfleet values, what they're going to do with this Emperor. So I think, and Saru making that statement, and we got and Michael Burnham stating, "I'm a Starfleet officer. That's why I'm not going to kill you, Lorca." So a lot of moments where they're redirecting, and they might start looking more like the morality place. Matt, that you like to see.
Ideologically, I think there's something to be said for that. They're starting to look more like, and getting rid of Lorca goes a long way. They're starting to look more like a Starfleet crew. They worked together in this episode. Yeah. It was really great to see Tilly and Stamets working together. Great to see Tilly, Stamets, and Saru together. Those groups of people trying to come up with a solution together, that's an important part of Star Trek because Gene Roddenberry wanted to see many different people doing many different things together. And getting to see a captain that's an alien
Yeah.
That is a first.
And he's being respected and not leaving somebody behind. You know what I mean? Like knowing that she's sacrificing herself and wanting to make and to sticking to that and that friendship.
And there was that beautiful conversation between them using just the words that would work in that moment where it was where she told Saru, "I'm exactly where I need to be."
Yeah.
Which to all the Terrans who are so narcissistic and full of themselves are all like, "Yeah, we've got her now." And Saru is like, good, she's in position.
Right,
like, that was the kind of Star Trek The Next Generation crew working together, communicating, like those moments where they communicate non-verbally, and like that worked beautifully for me.
And I do agree. Like I've been saying for, we've been doing the show and I've been saying, maybe, like, after 15 hours, I've been saying, like, after 15 hours, we're going to get the whole picture. It's not like regular Star Trek. It's not episodic in the same way. It's one big arc that we're going to figure out all the stuff, and that makes it, the whole entire thing, Star Trek. It's going to be great to binge. You know what I mean? We're going to watch it in one big chunk. But I'm so scared that they're running out of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want them to succeed, and I feel like, there's 2 more episodes, but I don't want them to run out of time.
And this one was only 43 minutes long. This was a short one.
Well, how long are they normally, Matt?
They normally have a few extra minutes. They're like 45 plus. Less than 50, more than, like... The fact that they just crested 40 when they have so much story to tell, and they had to pop reshoots into this, like, I feel like... They
could have told us a little more this time around.
They could have done more with this episode.
Well, maybe they're experimenting. They're experimenting this first season. They're experimenting. They're getting feedback from audience members, or maybe ratings are. I wonder what the ratings have done.
Well, there are no ratings anywhere but Canada. There are no ratings on CBS All Access because it's subscribers. There are no ratings on Netflix because Netflix holds an iron grip around the numbers of who's watching what. So this is an experiment in so many ways.
We're the ones who are making sure.
Basically us. We're holding them accountable. But the idea that there are so many pressures on Star Trek Discovery to be a Star Trek show, to be a new show, to be a show that drives subscribers to CBS All Access.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of things going on here, and I feel like if you are trying to get people to subscribe to something and watch it every single week, then you should give people something that is satisfying that week and they can't wait to see it next week. But if you give people something that they should binge and they can watch it all in 1 month worth of subscription, there are going to be people who just pick this up on February 11th and watch everything, and CBS gets $6 from them, and that's it. And I feel like CBS has sort of taken a bit of a misstep here in that if it had the Orville or Next Generation style, here's an episode, you're really going to enjoy it, come back next week for another one, as opposed to, we're going to leave you dangling, and this isn't a solid hour of television that you can watch on its own and enjoy, because it's part of this great, big, carefully built story. That's a very different way of telling stories these days, and we call that binging. Computer?
Kirsty says if it was true Star Trek, in the next episodes, Philippa will sacrifice herself to save the Discovery and somehow fix the timeline and end the war, or at least give Starfleet a chance to win it.
Absolutely, Kirsty. That sounds about right.
Yep, yeah. Like that.
I'm very much expecting sort of all of that to happen. I'm expecting Georgiou to have something to do with their next mycelial time travel jump. And I feel like Georgiou knows things about the universe because the Terrans have been exploiting things. She'll know things about Klingon space that the humans do not know about because she was also the dominus of the Klingon of Kronos. So she was in charge of all of this space. So she has a tactical advantage. Computer?
Derek wonders, how does this affect Mirror Mirror events or the Mirror Universe episodes of DS9?
Yeah, I think they work. I think they work with the DS9 episodes. They just don't work with the Mirror Mirror storyline unless they just happen to send the 4 people who didn't read that issue or didn't read that chapter in the textbook. Like, there's no reason for them to be surprised that beaming people somewhere may have created the wrong person when they arrived. It's like, oh yeah, that happened again. Like, that would be the kind of thing that people are completely bloody aware of.
Yeah.
So, this show has to be retconned in so many ways. They have to go back and undo a lot of what we saw in this in order for it to really, truly fit canon. And all the writers have been saying, don't worry, it's going to fit canon. The producers have been saying it's going to all fit in. And the less the square peg fits the round hole, the more we're going to see that square peg get filed down into the round hole we've already got. You know, they can't do much about the ship designs because the ship designs aren't really going to be retconned, and the ship sizes don't fit at all with original series Star Trek. They kind of fit in the JJ-verse if you look at the physical size of these ships. But the Shenzhou is not a ship that is going to happen 20 years before Kirk's Constitution. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, but even if we put, like, some of those, like, some of the technical details aside, even if we do that, which is difficult because, you know, it's Star Trek and a lot of technical things matter. But even if we were to do that, I really would, I'm fearful with timeline things when it's like, oh, well, we're just going to fix this because we've gone back in time and shifted everything. And I do not particularly like that when it's too heavy-handed, you know what I mean? When too many things are just totally fixed.
Well, if they go back in time and fix something and then everyone is wearing red and blue and gold shirts, that'd be an okay fix.
Yeah.
I could get along with that. If all of a sudden everything looked like original series Star Trek, they're like, oh man, what happened?
Okay, yeah,
and then CBS would only have to show it for like 3 minutes at the end of the season, and then CBS could get their way with their JJ looking show. I mean, that could work for me because I've grown to dislike those things so much.
Oh, I don't mind those. I kind of wish they were always wearing the Mirror Universe uniforms because those are real cool.
The armor? Georgiou's armor?
Yeah, and Lorca's, the black. The silver black.
It's like half of them look like Power Rangers and the rest of them look like they were from Blade Runner. It's pretty cool. Computer?
Gary's wondering if you noticed the ship around the station they returned to in the debris field. Some people say it's a Constellation starship.
I wonder. I mean, you can really dig into the stuff that's in the background of Wolf 359, and it's just the leftover starships that they would have had around third season. It was like blow up an Excelsior and then put it there and put it there and put it there, and there's, wow, it's weird, we have so many Excelsiors. No wonder we lost to the Borg. But when we're looking now at CGI, it's going to be really interesting to see whether these ships that are in this next debris field, because this is the third debris field? They spent a lot of time in debris fields.
Yeah, they're always in a debris field.
There's a reason to be in a debris field pretty frequently.
It's a war.
Right? Yeah, I guess, half of space is a debris field.
Yeah, it is a war.
I wonder. I really want to go back and take a look at that and see if there's... if there are splines that are recognizable in that debris field. Because there's something about the space visual effects in Discovery that make everything kind of hard to see.
Yeah, it's like...
It's lit with a purple neon light and then a blue neon light, and then the background is bright, but there's a lot of shadow on the ship
all the colors are too close together, you know what I mean? They're not divided. Yeah, it's dark. It's dark.
Yeah.
It's dark in Prime Universe, it's dark in Mirror Universe. That was also really unsettling, because it's kind of like, you want it to shift, you want to see more of a shift between universes, where, like, you know, Mirror Universe is dark.
And since this show invented a reason why Terrans would like it to be dark, the most ridiculous retconned explanation of how humans like it in the dark when they're part of the Terran Empire, that only works if all the episodes leading up till then had been lit differently. But it's just lit with a bit more yellow instead of blue, and it doesn't seem darker. It doesn't seem scarier. It doesn't seem like these people need less light. You know, the Krill ships on the Orville did a pretty good job of seeming darker and Klingon-like, and when you explain that it's because if there's too much light they, burn to death, yeesh, they're good reason. And so to not see something similar like that in the production design of a show like this is kind of disappointing.
Like, if you know where you're going, right, in the show, I mean, from the very first episode that Lorca's in, that's like one of the things. It kind of fades, like, over some episodes they don't talk about his sensitivity to light.
But they do always show it.
Yeah.
Which is neat. There are moments where a door will open and he'll wince a bit.
Yeah.
So Isaac was totally into that. Yeah. The writers just didn't hammer it into us often enough, I guess.
Was that their little wink to say that he's not, like, were they trying to tell us from then that he was, I mean, we guessed it, but, like, you know, like, is that what they were trying to tell us? Because I wish they had picked something, like, particularly Terran, so that we could, you know, but maybe I guess that would have been too much of a giveaway, but we figured it out anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like,
because, again, Discovery's bad with big moves. Those little moments are beautiful.
Yeah.
The big moves are clumsy and we see them coming a mile away. Computer?
David wonders if Georgiou ends up back in the Mirror Universe and teams up with Prime Universe Lorca over there to help change the politics that allow the Vulcans, etc., to serve in the Empire, like Spock, in a slightly more progressive empire. It's a big prediction.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still unclear. Once again, the huge questions like, where's our Lorca? Did that ship explode and nobody got out?
Like where is Mirror Universe Discovery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many.
Where's Mirror Universe Discovery?
And theoretically, Mirror Universe Discovery had 9 more months of booting around being crazy. We have no idea what happened in massive parts of this story.
So is, like, Mirror Universe Discovery, are they just gone? Like, are they go poof? Like, they're just, like, something happened?
We have no evidence that this is all transposition, because when Mirror Universe Saru was on the Shenzhou being a servant, our Universe Saru was still in his place on the Discovery. So people aren't just like disappearing because the other person is.
No.
So it means there has to be an actual crossover event. So in the case of the transporter for Lorca, if they're sticking a canon, then it would mean that happened because Mirror Lorca and Real Lorca were both transporting in that moment to the same destination, meaning Mirror Lorca survived on the Gagarin, or what was the name of his ship? The Gagarin is a different one. Maybe I can't remember now. But that means that when the Charon took out Lorca's ship, our Lorca was like, guys, where am I? What? Boom, and then just died. So it is a very big question as to, is that what happened? Because you showed us the stuff we knew and didn't tell us anything about the stuff we really would like to know about.
Mirror Universe, it's hard to maintain a Mirror Universe story over so many episodes. I mean, there's too much room for this kind of stuff, and then it becomes unpleasant. And then it becomes, that's why there's 1 or 2 episodes. They worked very well.
Mm-hmm. One every season.
Yeah, so we've had 3. I think it's been 3 or 4, right? 3 or 4. So I'm glad we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, this has been 4.
We don't even know. We don't even know actually. We don't know what we're done because we have Mirror Georgiou in the Prime. So and we don't know. Are there more Mirror? Did he come? He can't. He.
We have. Don't forget Vogue.
Oh yeah, we must evoke Vogue. Computer.
So the ship is the Buran.
The Buran. That's it. The Buran. That's it. The Gagarin has already been destroyed.
We have some great viewers. Great
we do. They know what's up. Wow. I like it.
Yeah, it's great.
Gary says that Prime Universe Lorca is wandering around in the Mirror Universe looking for a way out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sam would like that because Sam loves Lorca, and I would like to meet our actual Lorca because maybe he's a cool dude.
What if he's great?
Maybe he's wonderful. Or maybe, like Landry, he's exactly the same. Exactly the same. He's the shame.
He's the shame of Star Trek.
No, but he probably is intelligent as Mirror Lorca, probably.
You would hope.
And
is bold,
and
probably.
Yeah, and those are good things.
Yeah.
Captain, that's why he's so tricky.
And he's less scarred up, which means he's done it better, you would think. Although, on the topic of people who are who would recognize those scars, let's talk a little bit about what we've seen from next week already.
Sure.
The Admiral's back with her legs working, which is nice, so that temporary paralysis is over.
Sarek.
Yes.
Sarek is there.
Sarek will be back, which is great. And it'll be interesting to see what the heck they do with Georgiou.
Yep.
What do you do with a Terran Emperor?
Mm-hmm. That's why, her question is so great when she's just like, what have you done
to me? What have you done to me?
Yeah.
What have you done to me? I was like, Burnham, what were you thinking?
Yeah. I want to know what Burnham was thinking, because you can't tell by her face. You can't tell by her face what she was thinking. Maybe that you can, nobody can answer. No actor can do that with just a look. But I would like to know what Burnham, if she was trying to be Starfleet or if she was trying to punish her.
No. I think in that moment it was all emotional. It was not Starfleet. Okay. It was definitely not Vulcan.
Am I going to watch her die again?
Again, I can't do this. And they are sacrificing herself. Yeah. For her, and I think she just snapped and was like, no, I can't do this, I love you.
Yeah, and if there is anything resembling a redemption arc for Kelpian cannibal Georgiou, that would be hard. Yeah. That would be hard.
Is she gonna look at Sarah and think,
dinner? Yum? I don't know. Computer?
Gary really thought Burnham would return and open a fried Kelpian restaurant.
Saru might not be referring to her as my friend after that. I mean, the thing is, they're a race of prey, so they're probably pretty tasty.
I'm looking forward to the friendship between Saru and Burnham. So no frying up, of our new captain.
So true,
right?
But I feel so sad. I feel so sad
too. Computer.
Melissa thinks that the reason why nobody can pronounce the names consistently is because there's too much mercury in the Kelpian.
Too much mercury in the Kelpian.
Oh my god.
Maybe.
Oh my god.
Don't want too much Kelpian. Although the ganglia is tender. So, although on the topic of those threat ganglia.
Right. Yes, yeah.
Do it.
So Saru can sense the coming of death,
which we know you
hate. Which is dumb as hell. But let's get specific, because Saru and his team specifically murdered everyone on a giant palace ship, and he didn't sense the coming of all those deaths.
No. Just the one people he wants to protect.
Yeah, even though some of those people are genetically exactly the same as the people on his ship. How do his ganglia know?
I'm kind of, nothing. Like, he has a connection to Mirror Lorca, right? They spent all this time together. When Mirror Lorca was booted, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe we're just not looking at him that, but I just don't understand what the point is of having...
If you don't use them
of having that and talking about it if we're not going to, I just don't, I don't get
because
it.
that would have been a great ethical thing. That would have been a great ethical Star Trek moment, right?
Yeah, because...
His feeling bad about them...
About murdering a bunch of people.
Yes.
Yeah. Or even the fact that somebody like Mary Lorca, who is a villain and who is evil to his core, can still get that sort of response out of him when he dies, because they've been comrades, you know what I mean?
Because it's about sensing the coming of death. It's not Spidey sense about, oh no, danger. It's about something's gonna die.
Like the coming of death. What's what's the radius of what?
Yeah.
It's like you said last week, you're like, that's sensing the coming of death, that's not a thing.
No.
But I just don't, I don't really know.
It could be.
I want to
pretend it.
Midichlorian ganglia.
Believe it.
I think I just want to understand it a little better.
You need to explain if you're going to throw in stuff like that, you're going to have to explain it, because this is Star Trek, not Star Wars. We need to know how it works. That's why we watch this.
Yeah, and maybe season 2, it'll be it'll change. You know what I mean? Because it'll be retcon, it's not like there's never been retcons about the physiology of aliens before.
Yeah,
it's happened before on Star Trek. Happened with the Trills and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, I just need to understand that. Because they talked about it again.
They keep talking about these things.
So many people died, and then nothing.
Yeah, if you're going to talk so much about these things, you can't just use them for moves here and there where you're like, oh, look, Terrans are sensitive to light. And it's like, guys, if this is a thing, it needs to really be a thing. And it's not like Burnham was walking around the ship squinting because she couldn't see. There's just stuff that did not work for me on this. And I think it is time, on the topic of things that do not work, to decide whether this trekked it or wrecked it. Now, before we get directly into that, let's talk again about these bad boys. Because the ante has been upped. We've got some excellent, awesome, geekier than just the regular amount of geeky Star Trek stamps.
Yay.
These things are gorgeous. So these are up for grabs. To accompany that, there is a $100 iTunes gift card, also up for grabs as a part of this prize package. And the way you can be up for this, right? You can get all the soundtracks, yeah. So the way you will be up for that is if you make a comment on highball.tv. Now, highball.tv is the place where Trek It or Wreck It is living its life. And so it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, but the place where it is really going around the world is on highball.tv. It's a place where there's like a 30-day free trial thing. So if you sign up for that, don't worry, you don't get charged anything, but if you sign up for that, you can then make a comment on any of the Star Trek Discovery episodes we've been talking about. Ideally, in this back half of the season, because that's where things are getting very interesting. Yeah. So make a comment, let us know what you think. That's your ballot. You're in. You could win $100 of iTunes money and these sweet Star Trek stamps. So, now that fun part is out of the way, Vanya, Trekked It, Wrecked It, what did you think?
Trekked It.
What? Why?
Huh?
Sorry, we're going to have to back that
up. You're so confident about it.
Yeah.
Especially, like,
totally caught me off guard.
Especially since last week I said, and they're very much one episode.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, we keep saying maybe it's one bigger thing. So I every
You're trekking it on faith?
Yeah, I'm trekking it on. No, I'm trekking on. Yeah, I'm trekking on faith. I'm trekking on. I like the episode. I'm trekking it on some of the things that Sonia was talking about too, and some of the things that you said about it being in the ways that it was Star Trek. You know, like those questions that she saved Georgiou, that the crew was actually working together, and they seemed most like a crew. Again, like we keep saying that, but I'm gonna say Trekked It. I don't know what it'll be next week.
Interesting.
But how I'll feel next week when I see that episode. But you know.
Yeah, there's only 2 episods left to round this thing out.
Yeah,
Sonia, Trekked It, Wrecked It. What do you think?
Trekked It.
Okay, yes. Tell me all about that.
A lot of the things that Vanya said. I like that now. In the next 2 episodes, I'm looking forward to them dealing with these ethical issues. The togetherness of the crew. I actually disliked a lot of things about the episode, but there's still things that I did like about it. I really liked that they focused on one story. Yeah. That too. That did it for me. They came to the end of some of the storylines too in a way that was also satisfying. Lorca was knifed in the back, and Burnham had some great moments. So the central character had some great moments, and that was inspiring. So there was some good things, and there was some Star Trek things, and so I'm trekking it.
Cool. All right. Now this is going to sound a little weird, because I think this episode was an hour of bad TV. Like, just not well-made television. But it trekked it.
Yeah.
You're saying it too.
It trekked it because we got into the morality play here and there. We got into teams working together, and together they made a truly bad episode of Star Trek. And I think that's something. I mean,
they did
it together. Making a bad episode of something that's not Star Trek is the bottom of the barrel. Right. Making a good episode of something that's not Star Trek is like a step up. Making a bad episode of something that is Star Trek, at least you're living up to the fact that you named this Star Trek Discovery. You cannot get away from the fact that you're asking for our money because we already like Star Trek. And so I think this episode is one step away from the ultimate, which is good Star Trek. We could get that, and especially in these last 2 episodes. Computer?
Well, I gotta say that it's pretty unanimous, almost unanimous, of a Trek It from our viewers.
All right.
We have 1 Wreck It from Kirsty.
Kirsty, the voice of dissent. All right.
And David says, yay, Matt. David is very happy that you think it Trek It.
Nice. Very nice. Glad to hear it. Cool. Well, guys, that has been a really fun breakdown of this episode. Thanks so much for being a part of it. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Highball TV, you're getting to see this after the fact. We do this live on Facebook, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every Monday. So join us, get in on the conversation. We love to hear what you have to say because this is a community of Trekkies. And we are in this to the bitter end. Now that we're out of the Mirror Universe, Qapla', man.
Yes,
let's get back to this Klingon war that has been promised. Let's do it. See you guys next week.